Liz here from DiAlto.com, and today in the hot seat we have a woman who I only met earlier this year, introduced by my friend Derek Halpern, and she is just creating waves in the food industry, and I love it. She is taking on brands. She is revealing things that we all should know about everything, not just our food, but everything we put in or on our body. We have Vani the Food Babe. Vani, how are you?
Good. How are you, Liz?
I'm so good. So excited to have you.
I know. I'm so excited to have you, to have me on here because, like, I met you, I don't know, 5 months ago, and I feel like I'm so connected to you, Liz, and it's just so cool to have, this friendship online and on Skype, and to like share each other's ideas with each other. It's so awesome.
Thank you. And I know this is always, it's so fun because it's like the evolution of an internet relationship. It's like first you exchange emails and maybe Facebook comments, and then you actually talk on Skype, and someday soon we will meet in real life.
I know, and it's so funny because you can almost automatically gauge whether you would be friends with someone in real life through Skype, and it's a trip. So we are real friends.
So Vani, let me give you a formal intro. I'm going to read it so I don't leave anything out. Vani started foodbabe.com in April of 2011 to spread information about what's really in the American food supply. She teaches people how to make the right purchasing decisions at the grocery store, how to live an organic lifestyle, and how to travel healthfully around the world. The success in her writing and investigative work can be seen in the way of food companies, in the way food companies react to her uncanny ability to find and expose the truth. And I joke with Vani that she ruins my life on a weekly basis. Every time you investigate something else I love, most recently it was tea, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But really, Food Babe is the authority on my purchasing choices, and I hope by the end of this interview, for many of you it is as well. I check your website before, whenever I run out of something, I go check your website before I buy it again, just to make sure I'm keeping it clean in the DiAlto house.
Oh, that's so awesome. Well, thank you for that. It's a labor of love, let me tell you, because I have this crazy curiosity to me, and the curiosity has not killed this cat yet. So I've just starting out and trying to get started on this, journey to find out exactly what's in our food. And, I would have never even had this curiosity had I not gotten really sick 10 years ago. And, I was, living the typical American lifestyle, had just gotten this fantastic job, working for one of the top consulting firms in the country, right out of college, and they were working me to death. I was working, close to 60, 70, sometimes 80 hours a week, traveling on top of that, Sunday through Thursday or Sunday through Friday, and eating what all my coworkers were eating, and trying to, keep up with them, and put on the persona of getting in before your boss got there and leaving after your boss
First one
left.
to get in, last one to leave.
Yeah, this whole mystical way of how you move up in corporate America, and this whole almost like you're fronting, it's just you have to play this game. And I started playing the game, and I was so upset at what slowly started to happen to my body and my mind and my stress and everything around me. And I tell you, right out of college, nobody taught me how to take care of myself. This is something everyone really needs to teach themselves, because you're not taught that in college, you're not taught that in high school, you're not taught that any time, of how to really take care of yourself and how to make yourself number one. And it wasn't until my appendix was coming out of my body in an emergency surgery that I had to make that crucial decision. Myself is number one. I'm going to make Vani number one from here on out, and I'm going to figure out how to live this corporate lifestyle and take care of myself. This pain in the side of my stomach happened after 3 months of working the night shift in a big project, and I was staying up all night, and the only things to eat were Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme, and whatever pizza delivery would deliver to us. And so I was eating at night, and then
I can't even imagine you, by the way, putting any of that stuff near your mouth.
I mean, it would never happen right now, like today, like never. But back then, it was like you're in the middle of the night, you're watching
Yeah.
reruns of Sex in the City while the processing's happening at the bank, because we were working at a big bank and we were trying to process 27 different bank systems into one. And
It's
it was like,
crazy.
a lot of stuff you just watch. So we'd watch like old episodes of Sex in the City on our laptop. Our boss didn't know, but that's what we were doing, and we're eating donuts. And so, slowly that started to catch up with me, and my body got so out of whack. And there's something to be said about sleep and how
Totally.
important
Oh,
your sleep cycle is to you, and getting a sufficient amount of sleep, and how sleep affects your hunger hormones and the way you crave things. And I didn't know when I was eating. I didn't know when I was sleeping. I was working like a dog, and I gained close to 30 pounds on a very small frame that I have.
oh, another thing. I can't imagine you packing on another 30 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, I have pictures to prove it. I don't know if they'll ever become public, but I do have pictures to prove it. Actually, one of my old passport pictures is horrendous. I mean, it's the worst. And my
Oh, and
face.
you can't get rid of those passports forever.
Oh, no, you can't, because you want to remember all the places you've been. So, anyways, I got super. I gained a lot of weight, and I got so sick that I went to the hospital. And the doctor who saw me said, "There's nothing wrong with you. Take some Advil and go home." And if it wasn't for my parents' sixth sense, which was, go see another doctor, something doesn't seem right, then I probably wouldn't be here today. I mean, because as soon as I saw that second doctor that next morning, he said, "You need to have immediate appendicitis surgery and to have your appendix removed. You have appendicitis." And they found my appendix really inflamed when they took it out. And normally it takes like a week to recover. It took me a whole month. And this was the
Wow.
month of December. So I like vividly remember how horrible this, my body was so toxic and full of inflammation. It was so hard to recover. Everyone's out celebrating Christmas and all the holidays, and they're going to parties, and all I wanted to do was go to the mall and buy presents for people, and I couldn't, and so I remember this time in my life, and that's the moment where I said to myself, "Vani, you're going to be number one, and you know what? You're going to start figuring out what's in your food." And slowly but surely, starting in January, that whole wellness cycle that everybody follows, I learned everything I possibly could. I read every single diet book, every single food book. And it wasn't until really Omnivore's Dilemma came out by Michael Pollan that I really started to put the connection into corn and soy being such a fundamental thing in our diet, and what that meant, what that meant in terms of genetically engineered ingredients, what that meant in terms of all the processed ingredients, what that meant in terms of how and why Americans are so malnourished, because we wouldn't be having this crazy amount of disease, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all of these things, if we were nourished, if we were eating the right things. So I started to figure all that stuff out. And so, in high school, I was a top ranked debater nationally. And so we'd spend every summer at Dartmouth College burying ourselves in books to research that topic for the next year. And
That's where it was born.
exactly. And one of the year's topics was healthcare, and it was that moment where I kind of like that I shot back to that time in my life, and it was such a fun period in my life because I traveled a lot for high school debate and was always debating these big teams, and I was from like a regular old school, and I was debating all these private schools that had fancy coaches and all this, and I was like an underdog, right? And so it's like the same thing now, where I'm the underdog going against the big food industry in researching and telling people what's really in their food, and all the stuff the food industry is not telling us and doesn't share with us openly on the package or within their business practices, or how they produce food, or where our food comes from, or what's really happening to our bodies when we consume this food. So that's where this love of, investigative nature kind of was born. And now I've been able to use those skills in a really cool format, which is this blog.
I love to watch you do that. And, some of my favorite reviews that you've done have been the protein powder review. I send people to that. Whenever someone asks me about protein powder, I send them the link to your blog because that's huge. And also, you recently did tea, which I was telling you when we spoke offline, I was so upset at you at first because I love my teas. And my favorite tea is my friggin' Yogi bedtime tea. And they made the not so good list. But then at the same time, I was also like, all right, at least she'll save me time at the grocery store now. When I'm standing in front of the wall of tea, I only have like 3 choices now instead of like 35. So I'm going to ask you about those in a second. And then recently you also did an investigation about beer, which I've never been a big beer drinker, but I know a lot of people are. And so I can't wait. And we don't need to get into like the really murky details because I could just link people up to your blog post below. But what have been your favorite, or maybe let's say the most controversial debates, or the ones that people were like, no?
Well, definitely beer was the most controversial as of right now, because beer is something like sacred to people, right? Sacred to men. Like men, I've never had so many disgruntled men come after me. I mean, seriously, like stalk me down to like tell me how they feel about my post. And the thing is, the way I wrote the post is out of my pure heart for my husband, because my husband drinks beer, and I said, in the post, I said someone in my household, but if anybody knows me, I live with my husband. He drinks the beer, and I just wanted to make sure whatever beer he was drinking was a good beer. It didn't have some of these additives in it. And, I read this book about a year and a half ago by the Center of Science and Public Interest. They had done all this research in the 80s about beer and what additives are allowed in beer. And they had, researched and actually put some of these beers under the microscope and figured out what was actually in them. And one of them was Miller Lite. And Miller Lite is like one of the most, you wouldn't even think twice about drinking a Miller Lite. It's 90 calories, it's just a quick beer, you don't even think twice about it. But it actually has all sorts of additives. Corn syrup that's made from genetically engineered corn. It's got propylene glycol, which is, one of the ingredients that are used to make antifreeze. All this stuff within beer. And you wonder why you don't feel that great drinking that beer afterwards. And there's supposed to be some health benefit to beer, but when it has all these additives and made from the cheapest ingredients, I think it's like as bad as probably drinking a soda when it comes to making your body acidic and causing inflammation. So I wanted people to know the truth about what's in their beer. And one of the key factors with not knowing this information, and what really got me excited about doing this investigation, and I came up with the idea a year and a half ago when I read this book, and it took me almost that long to get even some of the beer companies to even tell me what's in their beer, or to even confirm things that I already had researched, so that I was telling people the truth. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure whatever I said was accurate.
I love that you do that due diligence, though, because this is, when I say that this is something, what you have decided to do is something that needed to be done. And I don't know of anyone out there who's really doing the due diligence the way you are. Like, to hear you say that you've been researching something for over a year to write a blog post is amazing to me. And I just do want to take a minute to recognize the service that you're providing for people. And I joke, and I know it's a bummer every time you put up one of those posts, and I'm like, damn it, there goes something else I love, but I'd rather know. I think as Americans, we live in this ignorance is bliss state when it comes to what we're consuming and the things that we're putting on our bodies, and it's insane to me, totally insane. So keep going.
And you make such a good point that we want to know, and we also have the right to know. And one of the things that's so bizarre about the beer manufacturers and beer in general and alcohol in this country is that it's regulated by the Treasury Department. It's not even regulated by the FDA. So they have basically no rules around what they really need to put on a bottle as far as ingredients. Yeah, they have to put the percent alcohol, and they have to put, certain things like the calories if it's a light beer, but they don't have to put anything in terms of the ingredients. And that's really not fair to the consumer because, we do want to know what we're consuming. And I think that's one of the most interesting laws in terms of food and drink that we have in this country. And the reason why it is that way is because alcohol, Anheuser-Busch, Miller Coors, all these big companies have super big pockets, and they buy off government officials when it comes to making these laws. So it's, and that's just in lobbying money. It's not really that they're buying them off under the table, although they might be, I don't know. But it's lobbying money, and it's a legal thing that they're doing. But what's really suffering is our right to know and our understanding of what their product is. And when we buy that product, should we support something that's, corn syrup out of genetically engineered corn and propylene glycol and all these additives?
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a point that I hadn't even thought about. Not only are we concerned about what we're putting in our bodies, but we're just giving more money. We're just feeding money into the problem. So the burning question is, does Finley comply now? Is he drinking the better beers or what?
He is, and it was really cool because we were away for the weekend, spending some time with family, and we went over to Whole Foods and we got the Sammy Smith's organic lager, and I was really excited. And he was showing it to his dad and my brother-in-law and everyone. So it was really cool. Yeah, it's good to see him drinking the right stuff.
So then tell me, and again, I'll post a link to this in the description and on the blog post, whether you're watching this on YouTube or at LizDiAlto.com. What are the three, I think there only were three, acceptable tea brands at the end of that investigation?
Yeah, so I love Numi Tea because they really care about the environment. They're certified non-GMO projects, so no genetically engineered ingredients, and they're certified organic, so there's going to be no pesticides in your tea. Traditional Medicinals is also fantastic, as well as Rishi Tea, which is a loose leaf tea, which is a comparable tea to Tivana, which is the whole reason I started this investigation, because I was cleaning out my tea drawer to arrange all my tea. And I came across my old Tivana bags, and I looked at the back of one, and it said Earl Grey flavored. And I go, what is this flavor added to my Earl Grey? And I found out it was artificial flavoring, which is actually...
And it enrages me, so I'm sure you get really fired up too, that it's outrageously expensive tea and it's not the highest quality. Like, you have to be kidding me.
It is so expensive. I mean, they create this whole illusion. You go into the store, they take out the canister, they wave the top of it, they make you smell it, and then they charge you per pound.
It's crazy.
Which is crazy. And then they're like, oh, we follow all the European standards, so yeah, it's fine. And meanwhile, 100% of their teas tested positive for pesticides. And then they're making their teas taste better with crude oil, because that's what really artificial flavoring is.
Right.
Yeah. So crude oil in your tea, which is insane.
I can't even. So I'm not jealous of your job, but I'm happy that you're out in the world doing it, is the bottom line. Now, recently, within the last 2 months, you launched this really cool monthly program. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so the number one request that I would get from friends and family when I started, actually to even start foodbabe.com, they wanted to know what my secret was, how I turned my life around, how I lost the 30 pounds almost within a few months of getting my life on track, and then able to keep that weight off and maintain my weight for almost over 10 years now. I've been able to maintain my weight without dieting. And people wanted to know, what I eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, how I figure out my meals, how I plan out my meals, all of that jazz. And was the reason why I started Food Babe to begin with was, all of my friends and family just saying, can you just share recipes with us? And we just want to know why you look so great and you feel so great. And I can tell you, when I look at old pictures of me and when I was 18 and in my early 20s, I look nothing like I do now. I mean, I was so ugly. It was so horrible. Oh. You have no idea. And it's really, I'm able to, I feel like I've gotten more beautiful because of the way I'm eating. And it has nothing else other than to do with, eliminating eczema and asthma and all of these ailments I was always suffering from because I was eating all of these artificial chemicals and additives and not eating the most nutritious things for my body and not juicing, which I tell you, juicing, when I started juicing with carrots, it was crazy. My eyelashes started growing longer, you know, and I'm Asian. So like, you know, my eyelashes are normally short anyway. So it was just like kind of cool to see that.
I love to hear you say that because there's so much power in what your food can actually do for you. Like I know in some of my programs, I mean, it's the same meal plan across the board, but people are always very pleasantly surprised. I don't even advertise this as a benefit, but people are always saying, oh, my skin is amazing. I'm so vibrant. I look 10 years younger. And you're like, listen, nutrition is the real fountain of youth. It's not those friggin' creams with all the, we won't even talk about what's in those. So what is this what you do now every month? People can sign up and get your plans and stuff?
So what they get is a starter guide first that tells you everything you need to know about organic and non-GMO living and all the stuff that, you know, I suggest that you do when you eat out. And here's, you know, snack recommendations and kind of like my lifestyle and how I've been able to maintain this for 10 years. And then every month they get 5 breakfasts, 5 lunches, 5 dinners, and a new salad dressing recipe that they can learn every month, and they repeat each week. So it's not something, it's not like a meal planning service where you have to learn new recipes every single day, which I think is very overwhelming.
Yeah, nobody's going to do that. Let's be serious.
You know, and so I wanted to do something very feasible and attainable for people and uncomplicated. You know, I wanted people to have something really easy to follow that they get every month at the same time, and so that they can prepare. They get the shopping list. They get everything portion controlled for them. So if they make the recipe exactly like it is, it's already portion controlled, so the calories are controlled. It's all real, organic, non-GMO food.
It's great.
And my recommendations for products, which is great.
I mean, and again, that's what we want. Is you are the authority on what I should be putting in my body. So how much? What is that on a monthly basis? Like $1 million? This sounds like a lot of work.
Well, you know, I hired a nutritionist to help me with it, which was really exciting because she's pretty awesome. And she's actually, it's hilarious. Her husband is a Panthers player, NFL Panthers player. So she's really into this, you know, healthy fitness lifestyle. And it's so cool seeing him eat all this like raw organic goodness. Like, you know, when we go out to eat, it's so amazing. But anyways, a huge Panthers player, you know, it's just a football player. But anyway, so it is $17.99 per month.
Shut up.
Yeah, it's nothing. It's really nothing. It's like less than $1 a day. It's like
less than $1 a day. It's less than you spend on Starbucks probably in a week, which I don't even want to know what you think about Starbucks. I'm not a really fan either. So, well, that's fantastic. So you have given us so much valuable information. You deliver so much valuable information on your website. I'm going to link up to everything, including your monthly program, in the notes there. Any parting words? Anything you want to leave the viewers here with before we let you go? Because I really could keep you here all day, but I won't do that to you.
Oh, thank you, Liz. So I think the most important thing I want people to realize is that the most power that you have is every single day when you take out your pocketbook and you take out your wallet. And that power of where you choose to spend your money is really how the world is going to go round. And so when you make that decision whether to go organic or conventional, or you make that decision to buy that Coca-Cola, or you go make that decision to buy some organic product like Suja juice or something else, you're making a decision on where your money goes and how those companies perform. And that has a direct impact on our government. Because, you know, what I like to tell people is that I love to vote, right? I love to go vote for our officials and vote for the people that I think are going to change the world. But we actually have the power to change the world every single day we take out that money and we decide where to spend it. And then when we support the companies that are doing the right things, using less pesticides that are polluting our water and our air and our lungs and everywhere else, and our lands, you know, when we decide to spend money on companies that are supporting our health and the health of the earth and the health of our grandchildren and the health of everyone around us, we're going to be much better off as a society. And when you die one day, you will have done your part. So we can all change the world, you know?
I love it. And again, it seems like a small thing. It's a much bigger deal. And then there's a far-reaching purpose that many of us, I mean, it's our food. So many people struggle with their relationship and emotional eating with food, when really it could be solved quite simply by just being like, you know what, let me attach a little social responsibility to this thing, and I could feel much better about it too. So again, thank you so much. You're amazing. Everyone watching, links, everything about Vani and Food Babe are going to be underneath the video, no matter where you're watching this right now, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much, Liz.